Hi, my name is Stuart Marshall. I want to show you my robot. I've been building robots for a couple of years, and I've built them for a lot of different purposes. I've built indoor robots and I built outdoor robots. The robot I'm going to show you now is basically an outdoor robot. You can drive it around inside, but probably don't want to. This is really what I've used for testing my remote control capabilities, and I've driven it around Seattle on sidewalks and on roads. I live in Seattle, and it's been great for, like, driving around the neighborhood. We've done that for hours on end, and done a lot of great testing that way. Okay, so I'm going to show you my robot. I'm going to explain all the different parts that it's built out of. This is something you could totally do at home yourself. I had to solve a lot of problems to make this work well, and I figured I'd share it and show you how it works. All right, so here is my robot. Let me scooch down and you can see the body of it a little bit. So to begin with, it's basically, the frame is made out of two mobility scooters that are strapped together. You know when you're in a grocery store and you see somebody, like, scooting around on a battery operated scooter? I basically got one of those used off of Craigslist, and I ripped all the top off of it. Took off the seats, took off the plastic cowling, took off their own custom electronics and all the control stuff. I basically got it down to the frame, the motors, and the battery compartment, and then I put my own electronics and my own computer on top of it. Um, the mobility scooter that I used was originally it had two drive wheels. That worked great, except, I live in Seattle, and there were times when I'd be driving it around outside, and the road would have a bunch of wet leaves on it, and I'd lose traction, and it didn't work very well. So what I ended up doing was getting a second mobility scooter of the same model, basically, stripped it all down again, and I was able to take the two of them and clamp them together with two pipe clamps, or actually six pipe clamps, and make it a four-wheel drive robot. And it works great. Like, I can drive it all around on just about anything, and it's able to keep on going. It does have a rigid frame, so it's a little bit jouncy, but it actually works super well. It can totally get around. So I explained how it's basically two mobility scooters strapped together. If I scooch down here, you can see, the two different frames and how it's strapped together. One of the things that's great about these mobility scooters is that they've got really powerful motors. So there you can kind of see one of the motors. These things are made for moving people around, and doing so for hours. So these motors can really, they can drive this forward pretty well. From a speed standpoint, it gets up to like 4 miles per hour, which is not super fast, but it's good enough for driving around on sidewalks. Okay, major components here besides the motors themselves. Here I've got a Linux box. It's basically an old PC that I repurposed. It's running standard Ubuntu 18, and it's basically a Core i5 machine. Over here, this is a Sabertooth motor controller. These things work great. I love them. They're a little bit expensive, but they work super well. I'm using the packetized serial control mode for it. I love them. I've bought like 3 of them, and can't say enough good things about them. These, I've got 4 Logitech C920 cameras. The Logitech C920 is an awesome camera. They're a little bit hard to buy right now with everybody locked at home and doing Zoom all the time. But if you can get your hands on them, they work super well. The one on the front over here, this one, I stripped all the plastic off of it and I put on a custom lens. I don't know if you can see that very well. So it's got a custom fisheye lens. It gives you a wider field of view. The Logitech C920 already has a decent field of view, but it's really made for conversations over webcams. So I wanted to have the front view camera on this have a wide angle, like 110 degrees, and that helps a lot. I also have these on the side, which act as kind of wing cameras and help with the peripheral vision. And this one on the back is the rear view camera. This on top is a Netgear LB1120 cell modem. It works pretty well. It's not awesome, but it does give good connectivity. I've got a couple of external antennas for that, and that helps a little bit. I've already got decent coverage here where I live, but still I wanted to experiment with them and see how they work. One of the things you can see is that the LB1120 is connected to my regular robot, or to the computer by Ethernet. That helps free up space on the USB bus, because these 4 cameras, they can use a lot of USB bandwidth, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't competing for that. On the front, I've got a little 7-inch LCD monitor. I've used that for basically being able to call the robot and talking to people on the other end. I really surprised a UPS delivery guy one day with that. This is a servo controller. At one point, up here at the top of the mast, I had a motorized camera that I could look around with. I don't have that on there right now, but that's what that used to drive. And then the last interesting part, let's see, there's a couple of buck converters for power. I've got one here for the monitor and another one over here for the computer. I used to have a better one that was weather tight and had higher amperage capabilities, but this one works okay. And then underneath, I've got two, in this compartment underneath, there are 2 golf cart batteries. They're basically big, heavy lead acid batteries. They've got a ton of amp hours in them, so this robot could drive around for like 6 hours easily on a full charge. And it delivers 24 volts, which is great for powering these motors. So yeah, I think that's all the major components. That's my robot.